I was finishing up some spreadsheets when her name flashed across my phone screen. 3 days into her Denver conference, and I figured she was calling to tell me about some workshop or complain about hotel coffee. I answered without thinking twice. "Hey, how's everything going?" The pause that followed wasn't the comfortable kind we'd built over 6 years of marriage. It was heavy, deliberate. "We need to talk," she said. And my stomach dropped before my brain could catch up. I set down my pen and leaned back. "All right, what's on your mind?" Another pause. I could hear the hotel sounds bleeding through. Elevator chimes, muffled conversations in the hallway, the hum of people living their normal lives while mine was about to implode. "I met someone here," she said finally. "At the conference." The words landed like ice water. I kept my voice level. "Met someone? What does that mean?" "We've been spending time together, talking. It's complicated." Complicated. That word people use when they want to avoid saying what they really mean. "How complicated are we talking?" "We're in a situationship," she said. Like that explained everything. Like that was a real term for what was happening. I had to process that for a second. Here I was, thinking we were married, and apparently we'd been downgraded to some undefined gray area that accommodated her conference romance. "We're married," I said slowly. "It's not that simple. These things happen, feelings develop. I can't control how I feel about someone." I walked to the window and watched cars pass below. People heading home to their families, completely unaware that my entire life was coming apart over a phone call. "So let me understand this. You met someone 3 days ago, and now you're in a relationship with them while you're married to me." "It's not a relationship exactly. It's more fluid. We're exploring what this could be." Fluid, exploring. Words that belonged in a TED Talk, not coming from my wife's mouth. "And you're calling to tell me this because I believe in honesty. I don't want to lie to you." The irony cut deep. She didn't want to lie, but betrayal with a trendy label was apparently fine. "How considerate," I said. "Don't be sarcastic. This is hard for me too." Hard for her. Right. I was sure it was really difficult having romantic dinners in Denver while I was home alone, paying our mortgage, wondering why she'd been distant for months. "So what happens now?" "I don't know. I need time to figure this out, to see where this goes." "While staying married to me?" "I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. I just wanted you to know what's happening." I looked at our wedding photo on my desk. 2 people who thought they understood what forever meant. "I appreciate the heads up. I'll be home tomorrow evening. We can talk more then. Figure out how to handle this." Handle this. Like it was a scheduling conflict instead of her choosing someone else. "Sure," I said. "We'll talk when you get back." "I love you," she said softly. "This doesn't change that." I hung up without responding and sat there staring at quarterly reports that suddenly meant absolutely nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from her, but I didn't look at it. Instead, I opened my laptop and started searching for divorce attorneys. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Not because I was ill, but because I had more important things to handle. By 9 a.m., I was sitting across from Bradley Thomas, a divorce attorney whose reviews impressed me and whose calendar had an opening. "So she told you about this situationship?" he asked, reading through my notes. "That's what she called it. Apparently, it means she can explore other options while keeping me as backup." Bradley nodded like he'd seen this script before. "People use modern terminology to make old-fashioned cheating sound progressive. The good news is, if you want to move forward, we can have papers ready by tomorrow. That fast? Adultery is adultery, regardless of what you call it. And she confessed voluntarily. Makes our job easier. I signed the retainer agreement and left with a plan. Papers would be ready by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Perfect timing for her arrival home. Next stop was the bank. I withdrew cash for immediate expenses and opened a separate account. Everything legal, everything documented. I wasn't hiding assets, just protecting myself from whatever surprises she might have planned. Then I called my buddy Jake. "Haven't heard from you in a while," he said. "What's going on?" "I need a favor. Can you help me move some boxes tomorrow evening?" "Moving boxes? You and Na buying a new place?" "Not exactly. I'll explain when I see you." That afternoon, I went through her social media. Conference photos showed him in several shots, standing close, his hand on her lower back, both of them looking comfortable with each other. Her colleagues' comments were telling. Heart emojis, "You two are so cute together" messages. I screenshot everything, though with her confession, it was probably overkill. By evening, I had everything organized. Fresh sheets on the guest bed, her suitcase pulled down from storage, mental inventory of which belongings were distinctly hers. I ordered boxes online with expedited delivery. My phone buzzed all day with texts from her. Conference updates, meal photos, little messages trying to maintain normalcy while completely destroying our marriage. I responded just enough to seem normal. "Sounds good. Nice picture. Have fun." The last text came around 10 p.m. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Miss you." Miss me. While exploring a fluid relationship with conference guy. The audacity was almost impressive. I spent the evening researching joint accounts, making sure I understood exactly what needed to be separated. Credit cards, streaming services, insurance policies. Marriage creates tangled financial connections that require careful unwinding. Around midnight, I found myself looking at our wedding album, not from nostalgia, but trying to pinpoint when things changed. When did the woman who promised to love me through everything decide promises could be fluid too? I closed the album and put it in a box marked with her name. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. The next day moved like a carefully choreographed operation. Bradley called at 4 p.m. "Papers are ready. You want to pick them up or should I deliver?" "I'll come get them." I reviewed everything twice. Petition for dissolution of marriage, financial disclosures, temporary restraining order on joint accounts. Everything we'd discussed. Clean, thorough, absolutely final. "You sure about this?" Bradley asked as I signed. "She made her choice 3 days ago. I'm just making mine official." By 5:30, Jake arrived with his truck. I'd already pulled out boxes and sorted most of her belongings. Her clothes, personal items, books, that expensive coffee maker her sister gave her for Christmas. Everything that was distinctly hers. "Man, this is heavy," Jake said, lifting a box of her shoe collection. "Want to tell me what happened?" "She decided our marriage wasn't exclusive enough for her taste." Jake stopped mid-lift. "Seriously?" "Called me yesterday from Denver. Apparently she's in a situationship with someone from her conference." "A what?" Exactly my reaction. We worked efficiently. Jake didn't ask many questions, which I appreciated. By 7 p.m., everything was packed and stacked neatly by the front door. Her suitcase sat on top, ready for immediate departure. I changed the locks while Jake grabbed dinner. Simple deadbolt replacement that took 20 minutes. I wasn't locking her out permanently, just ensuring she couldn't walk in like nothing had happened. "You know she's going to lose it when she sees this," Jake said as we ate. "Probably. But that's what happens when you blow up your own life and expect everyone else to deal with the fallout. Around 8 p.m., I got a text. Landing in 30 minutes. Can't wait to be home. Home. Interesting word choice for someone who'd been exploring other options. I responded, "See you soon." Jake left around 8:30 after helping me rearrange furniture to fill empty spaces. The house looked different, but not empty. More like it had been edited, streamlined. At 9:15, I heard a car in the driveway. I sat at the kitchen table with the divorce papers in front of me and waited. She tried her key first. I heard confusion when it didn't work, then the sound of her trying again. After a minute, she knocked. I opened the door and stepped aside. She looked tired from traveling, but smiled when she saw me. "Hey, doesn't work," she said, rolling her suitcase inside. "Did something happen with the lock?" That's when she noticed the boxes. Her smile faded as she looked from the stack by the door to the papers on the table, then back to me. "What's all this?" "Your things," I said simply. She walked over to the table and looked at the documents. I watched her face change as she read the header. "Petition for dissolution of marriage," she read aloud. "You filed for divorce?" "Yesterday, right after our conversation. But I said we needed to talk, to figure this out together." "You figured it out in Denver. I'm just catching up." She sat down heavily. "This isn't what I wanted." "What did you want? To keep me on standby while you explored your situationship?" "It's not like that." "Then explain it to me. Use small words so I can understand how being married to me while romantically involved with someone else isn't exactly like that." She was quiet for a long moment. "I thought you'd be more understanding." "Understanding of what? That you met someone and decided our marriage vows were more like guidelines." "People grow apart. Feelings change. I was trying to be honest with you." Honest would have been talking to me before you started your romance novel in Denver. This was notification, not honesty. She looked around the room, really seeing the changes for the first time. "You packed everything. Everything that's yours. I was very careful to make sure I didn't take anything that belonged to you." "Where am I supposed to go?" I pulled out my phone and showed her a hotel website screenshot. I checked availability. They have extended stay rates if you need more time to make permanent arrangements. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "You have this all figured out." "One of us had to." She sat there staring at the divorce papers for what felt like forever, but was probably only 2 minutes. I could see her brain working, trying to process that her carefully planned revelation hadn't gone according to script. "This is insane," she finally said. "You can't just end a 6-year marriage because I was honest about having feelings for someone." "I'm not ending it because you were honest. I'm ending it because you're having an affair and calling it a cute name." "It's not an affair. We haven't even..." "Haven't even what? Slept together? Is that the line you think matters here?" She shifted in her chair. "We connected emotionally. Sometimes that just happens. While you're married. To me, that's called cheating, regardless of which emotions got involved." She stood up and started pacing. "You're being incredibly rigid about this. Relationships evolve. People can have meaningful connections with multiple people." I almost laughed. "Are you seriously trying to sell me on polyamory right now?" "I'm trying to explain that love isn't always neat and simple. When I met Connor..." "Connor?" I leaned back. "So, we're naming him now. Tell me about Connor." Her face flushed slightly. "He's intelligent, funny. We spend hours talking about everything: work, life, dreams. things we never talk about anymore. When's the last time you tried to have one of those conversations with me? That's not the point. That's exactly the point. You stopped investing in our marriage months ago, found someone new to invest in instead, and now you want credit for being honest about it. She stopped pacing and faced me. I want credit for trying to handle this maturely instead of sneaking around. I told you the truth. You told me after you'd already decided to pursue him. That's not maturity. That's damage control. So what? You're going to throw away everything we built together because I had feelings for someone else? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She walked over to her boxes and pulled out a framed photo of us from our honeymoon. Remember this? Remember how happy we were? I remember thinking I was marrying someone who understood what marriage meant. People change, grow. I'm not the same person I was 6 years ago. Clearly not. The person I married wouldn't have started a romantic relationship with someone else and expected me to be understanding about it. She set the photo down and looked at me with something that might have been desperation. What if I ended it? What if I told Connor this was a mistake and we worked on our marriage instead? Could you do that? Just turn off your feelings for him because I'm not okay with sharing you? If that's what it takes to save our marriage. Yes. I studied her face. You don't mean that. You're just scared because this isn't playing out how you imagined. Of course I'm scared. I'm about to lose my husband over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? I stood up and walked to the window. You think I misunderstood something about you being in a situationship with Connor? I think you're overreacting to something that doesn't have to destroy us. I turned back to face her. Let me ask you something. If I had called you from a business trip and told you I'd met someone, that I was exploring a connection with her, how would you have reacted? The silence stretched long enough that I knew the answer. That's different, she said finally. How? Because you wouldn't do that. Why not? According to you, feelings just happen. People connect. Relationships evolve. You're being ridiculous. I'm using your own logic. If it's okay for you to explore meaningful connections with other people while married to me, why wouldn't it be okay for me to do the same? She didn't answer, which was an answer itself. Here's what I think happened, I continued. You got bored with routine. Connor made you feel excited again. And instead of bringing that energy home to work on us, you decided to keep both options open. Now you're upset because I'm not playing along with your backup plan. That's not. I never thought of you as a backup plan. Then why are you here trying to negotiate instead of in Denver with Connor? If he's such an amazing connection, why aren't you pursuing that instead of trying to keep me around? Her phone buzzed on the table. The screen lit up with Connor's name. She quickly flipped it face down, but I'd already seen it. He's texting you, I observed, wondering how the conversation with your husband went. It's not like that. Show me the message. That's private. So are the messages between me and my wife. But apparently privacy doesn't mean much to you anymore. She picked up her phone and clutched it against her chest. I'm not going to let you invade my privacy just because you're angry. Privacy. Interesting concept coming from someone who wants to maintain romantic relationships with two different men simultaneously. I never said I wanted to maintain both relationships. You never said you didn't either. In fact, what you said was that you needed time to figure out where things with Connor might go. That sounds like wanting to keep your options open to me. She slumped back into the chair looking exhausted. I don't know what I want. This whole situation is confusing. It's really not that complicated. You want Connor? Go be with Connor. You want to work on our marriage? Cut contact with Connor and commit to rebuilding what you damaged. But you don't get both. And if I choose you, you'll just forget this ever happened? I looked at the divorce papers on the table. I'll never forget that when our marriage got boring, your solution was to start shopping for a replacement. Trust doesn't just magically reappear because you changed your mind about which option you prefer. Her phone buzzed again. Connor, presumably wondering why she wasn't responding. It buzzed a third time before she finally turned it off completely and set it aside. There, happy now? Turning off your phone doesn't make Connor disappear. It just means you're avoiding the conversation you need to have with him. What conversation is that? The one where you tell him whether you're leaving your husband for him or staying married and cutting contact. You know, basic adult decision-making. She rubbed her temples. This is all happening too fast. I need time to think. You've had 3 days to think. 3 days of romantic dinners and meaningful conversations with Connor while I was here believing I was in a committed marriage. How much more thinking time do you need? I wasn't trying to hurt you, but you did hurt me. And now you're trying to minimize that by saying it wasn't intentional. Like that changes anything. She looked around the room again, taking in the empty spaces where her things used to be. Where did you put my coffee machine? Box 3, along with all the specialty pods you spent $80 on last month. I can't believe you packed everything. I can't believe you thought I wouldn't. She stood up and walked to the kitchen, opening cabinets and looking around. It's like I never lived here. That was the point. You're being cruel. I'm being efficient. You made your choice. I'm helping you follow through with it. She came back and sat down looking defeated. What if I made a mistake? What if I was just confused and overwhelmed? Then you learn something important about yourself. Some people get overwhelmed and talk to their spouse about it. Others start situationships with strangers at conferences. Now you know which type you are. God, you're cold. I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. Her phone lit up even though it was turned off. Someone calling persistently enough to trigger emergency bypass. She glanced at it, and her expression changed. It's my sister. Answer it. You don't mind? Why would I mind? Your family's going to find out about this eventually. Might as well start now. She answered on the 4th ring. Hey, Bristol. I could hear her sister's voice through the phone, excited and cheerful. Na held the phone away from her ear and looked at me apologetically. No, I just got home, she said. Actually, Bristol, something's happened. Can I call you back later? More excited chatter from the other end. It's complicated. I'll explain everything later, I promise. She hung up and immediately started typing a text message. Letting her know you're getting divorced? I asked. Asking her if I can stay there tonight. Good plan. Hotel might be expensive long term. She finished typing and set the phone down. Bristol wants to know what happened. What should I tell her? The truth would be a novel approach. The truth is complicated. No, it's not. You had an affair and I filed for divorce. That's the truth. I didn't have an affair. You had feelings for someone and acted on those feelings while married to me. What would you call that? She was quiet for a long moment. I would call it the biggest mistake of my life. Now we're getting somewhere. Her phone buzzed with Bristol's response. She read it and sighed. She says I can stay as long as I need to, but she wants the full story tomorrow. Bristol always was the smart one in your family. She's going to ask questions I don't know how to answer. Like what? Like why I threw away a good marriage for someone I barely know. That's a fair question. What's your answer going to be? She looked at me with something that might have been genuine regret. I don't have one. I honestly don't know why I did this. Maybe because you stopped appreciating what you had and started fantasizing about what you might be missing. Maybe. Or maybe because you wanted the excitement of something new without giving up the security of something established. She winced. That makes me sound terrible. It makes you sound human. Selfish, but human. So there's really no way to fix this. I walked over to the table and picked up the divorce papers. You could have fixed it by talking to me when you started feeling disconnected. You could have fixed it by putting energy into our marriage instead of into Connor. You could have fixed it by coming home and having an honest conversation about problems instead of calling to announce your situationship. But I can't fix it now. Now you'd just be choosing me because I'm not tolerating your other choice. That's not fixing anything. That's just settling for your backup plan when your first choice becomes inconvenient. She started to cry then, quietly but steadily. I really screwed this up, didn't I? Completely. And you're not going to give me another chance. What would that look like? You promised to stop talking to Connor. I pretend to trust you again. And we both hope you don't meet another exciting stranger at the next conference. It wouldn't be like that. How do you know? 3 days ago, you would have said cheating on me wouldn't be like you either. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I'm going to regret this for the rest of my life. Probably. But that's what consequences are for. She stood up and started loading her things into her car. I helped her carry the boxes, not out of kindness, but because I wanted them gone. With each trip, the house felt more like mine and less like ours. When we loaded the last box, she turned to me in the driveway. What happens now? Now you figure out your life without me in it, and I figure out mine without you. And Connor? That's between you and Connor. I'm not part of that equation anymore. She got in her car and rolled down the window. I want you to know that I did love you. I still do. I believe you. But love isn't enough when it comes with footnotes and exceptions. She drove away, and I stood in the driveway watching her taillights disappear around the corner. After 6 years, it was over just like that. I went inside and locked the new deadbolt. The house was quiet in a way it hadn't been for months. Not empty quiet, but peaceful quiet. Like I could finally breathe normally again. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. How did it go? I typed back. Better than expected. Thanks for the help. Anytime. You okay? I looked around the living room, already mentally rearranging furniture to fill the spaces where her things used to be. Yeah, I think I actually am. 3 months later, I was sitting in Bradley Thomas's office again, this time for the final signature on the divorce decree. Everything had proceeded smoothly. No contested assets, no dragged-out negotiations. She'd signed everything without argument, which surprised me until I realized she was probably eager to make it official so she could move forward with Connor without the complication of still being married. That's it, Bradley said, sliding the stamped papers across his desk. You're officially single again. How does it feel? He asked as I reviewed the final documents. Like I should have done this months ago. And I meant it. The last 3 months had been the most peaceful I'd felt in over a year. No more walking on eggshells around her moods. No more wondering why she seemed distant. No more making excuses for why she didn't seem interested in spending time together. All those red flags I'd been ignoring suddenly made perfect sense in hindsight. I'd thrown myself into work and picked up hobbies I'd abandoned during our marriage. Started running again, learned to cook properly instead of relying on takeout. Even painted the living room a color I actually liked instead of the beige compromise we'd settled on years ago. The house felt like home again. My phone had been mercifully quiet regarding drama from her end. I'd heard through mutual friends that she and Connor were officially together now, and that she'd moved to Denver to be with him. Apparently, the long-distance thing had been too complicated for their situationship, so she'd quit her job here and started fresh out there. Bristol had called me exactly once, about 2 weeks after everything happened. That conversation had been interesting. "I just want to understand what happened," she'd said. "Na's story doesn't make much sense." "What did she tell you?" "That you two grew apart and decided to divorce. But that doesn't explain why she moved to Denver or why everything happened so fast." I'd given Bristol the facts without editorializing. She'd listened in silence, then said quietly, "I'm really sorry. I thought I knew my sister better than that." People surprise us sometimes. Not usually in ways that torpedo their entire life, though. That was the last I'd heard from Na's family. I assumed they were processing their own disappointment in her choices. Jake and I were grabbing lunch after I left Bradley's office when he asked the question I'd been expecting for months. "So, when are you going to start dating again?" "Eventually." That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. I'm not in any hurry to jump back into something serious. I'm not talking about serious. I'm talking about getting back out there, having some fun. I considered this while working on my burger. The truth was, I felt better about myself now than I had in years. More confident, more settled, more clear about what I wanted from life. But I also wasn't naive enough to think I was ready to trust someone else with my heart just yet. "I'm good where I am for now," I said finally. "Building my own life again." "Fair enough. But don't become one of those guys who swears off women because one woman screwed him over." "I'm not swearing off anything. I'm just being selective about who gets access to my peace of mind." Jake nodded approvingly. "That's actually pretty mature." When I got home that afternoon, there was an envelope in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a handwritten note from Na. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I wanted you to know that Connor and I broke up last week. Turns out a relationship built on betraying someone else doesn't have the strongest foundation. Who would have thought? I'm not writing to ask for anything or to try to fix what I broke. I just wanted to apologize for being so selfish and short-sighted. You deserved better than what I gave you. And I hope you find someone who appreciates what I was too immature to value. I hope you're happy." I read it twice, then put it in the kitchen drawer with other random papers I might need someday, but probably wouldn't. I felt nothing reading it. No satisfaction that Connor hadn't worked out. No temptation to reach out and commiserate. No anger about the timing of her newfound clarity. Just nothing, which felt like progress. That evening, I called my mom to let her know the divorce was finalized. She'd been supportive throughout the whole process, but I could tell she was disappointed. She'd liked Na, had been looking forward to grandchildren, had probably imagined holiday gatherings that would never happen now. "How are you doing with all this?" she asked. "Better than I expected. Different than I planned, but better than I expected." "Good. You know your father and I support whatever makes you happy." "I know, Mom. Thanks." "And honey, don't let this make you cynical about love. What happened with Na says more about her character than it does about marriage or relationships in general. I smiled. "I won't, Mom, I promise." After I hung up, I looked around my living room now, and realized she was right. I wasn't cynical about love. I was just more careful about who I chose to love, and more aware of the difference between someone who loved me and someone who loved the idea of me as a backup option. 6 months ago, I thought I was in a solid marriage. Today, I was officially divorced and genuinely okay with it. Life had a funny way of working out when you stopped accepting less than you deserved. I opened a beer and settled in to watch a movie I'd wanted to see for months, but had never been interested in. Small freedoms, but they added up to something bigger. They added up to a life that was completely mine again, and that felt pretty good. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Cook working in her garden. Normal evening activities for normal people having normal problems. The difference was, now I was one of those normal people again, instead of someone living in denial about his marriage falling apart. It had taken me 34 years to learn that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is refuse to accept unacceptable behavior, even from people you love, especially from people you love. The movie started, and I settled back into my couch now, and enjoyed the peace of an evening that belonged entirely to me. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.